Well, hi everybody. Welcome back to Suburban Homesteader Wyoming. This is Sandy, and what is this container I have? Oh, it's an ice cream churn. We must be making ice cream today. One of my favorite things to make. And there's a cylinder that goes inside of it. And we are going to have the pleasure of making homemade, old-fashioned ice cream today. There's nothing like it. So let's look at the recipe for old-fashioned homemade ice cream. It comes from an old recipe book that I have. It has 2 quarts of heavy cream, 2 cups of milk, 4 eggs, a half a cup of sweetened condensed milk, 1.5 cups of sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 2 to 3 teaspoons of vanilla, depending on the vanilla you use. Because who doesn't like ice cream? You scream ice cream, we all scream for ice cream. So this is how we started. I have a glass bowl on a pot that has boiling water in it. To that, I'm going to add 2 cups of whole milk and 2 cups of our heavy cream. Now, in a total, we're going to have 2 quarts of heavy cream. Now, heavy cream is thick and it wants to stick to the sides of the container, but you want to scrape it all out so that you have a complete 2 cups of the heavy cream and the 2 cups of milk. Now we're going to stir that up, and we are going to take it from being very cold to being hot. Now we don't want it to boil at all, but we do want the milk mixture to be very hot. And I always use a tempered glass bowl because we're going to add a lot of things to it, so you can't use a little container. And so we're going to start with 4 large eggs. If you only have medium eggs, use 6 of them. Now to that, I actually am using a stainless steel bowl, and I'll tell you why later. And we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt to that. I'm using kosher salt, but you could use any kind of salt that you prefer. And so we're going to mix that in, and then I'm going to add 1 1/2 cups of sugar. So we're just going to pile that in. The next thing that we're going to add is sweetened condensed milk. And sweetened condensed milk is very thick. This is a container that's 1/4 cup, but we actually need 1/2 cup. So we're going to put that first one in and see how thick it is. And when you open a sweetened condensed milk container, you may not use it all. And a lot of times people just throw that away, but you can actually put it in a container in your refrigerator and it will last for a long time because it's very thick. And see, isn't that fun, those ribbons that it makes? And you might as well save it and use it for another recipe. You can add it to cake recipes and stuff that don't even call for it, and it just gives it a little extra. Now, sweetened condensed milk was first manufactured in a factory in the 1800s. And so at first when we start to mix it up, it's a little bit difficult. It's very thick, but pretty soon we have it all incorporating within itself. But you just want to make sure that sugar and the egg mixture is well stirred in. Now I'm going to take almost a cup of that hot milk cream and pour it into there, but I'm going to do it very slowly because you never want those eggs to cook. You just want to incorporate it, and what I'm doing is literally raising the temperature of the mixture so that when I put it all together, we won't have any eggs that are cooking. And so I'm just going to continue. Now this is why I use a stainless steel bowl, because on a regular counter, it becomes like a little mixer, and it just mixes right in there, and it's very easy, very fun, and I like that spinning action. So we're just going to mix that all in, and then we can go over the bowl. The glass bowl is still heating up. It's still on the boiling water, and we're going to slowly add that into our mixture, stirring all the time. Now it's really important that you stir it all. You don't just dump it in. You want to keep stirring it, having that movement, and we're going to dump that all the way in. Now there's a lot of ice cream recipes, and some of them you heat up, some of them you don't, but I have to literally tell you, out of all the recipes I have used, this old-fashioned one is by far the best ice cream I have ever tasted. And the nice thing about it also is when it's frozen, the extra, it doesn't crystallize, where some recipes I have found that to happen. So we're just going to mix it. I'm setting my timer on 5 minutes, and we're going to mix it till that 5 minutes goes up. And when you stick a spoon in it, it wants to kind of start to stay as the spoon cools. And I'm going to take it off the burner, and I have to put it in the refrigerator to cool it. So I'm just going to put some saran wrap on it, and it will cool itself. About 2 hours for it to cool. So it's out of the refrigerator, and now we're going to add the rest of that heavy cream. At this point, we're adding 1 1/2 quarts of heavy cream, which is 6 cups. And so we're just going to incorporate that in there. Now remember, it's a total of 2 quarts of cream, but right now it's only 1 1/2. I'm going to mix that in, and then we're going to add the vanilla. Now I don't have my regular vanilla that I make here. I forgot to bring it down to Arizona. And so I am actually going to put the full 3 teaspoons because this is a store-bought vanilla. And so depending on the vanilla that you use, you may put a little bit less or you may put a little bit more. And we're just going to stir that up. And so it's ready for us. I have my churn in the sink. It's close to the outlet, and we're going to pour it into the cylinder. Now you can pour it just like that, but I like to take out the paddle just because sometimes it splatters and it just makes a mess. And so we're just going to pour that right in there, and I pour all of the mixture in there. A lot of times they tell you 2/3 to 3/4 full. I'm not going to waste any of it. I'm pouring it all in there. Then we're going to take that paddle and we're going to put it back in. Now the paddle, there's a little indentation in the bottom of the cylinder, and you want to make sure the paddle goes in there. And when you store the lid, it has a little cap, so you're going to take that cap off, you're going to put the lid on, and then you're going to twist it until it locks. See where it's locking right there with the indentation on the cylinder? And then when we can put our ice around there. I'm using a bag that's 10 pounds of ice, and sometimes you have to have a little bit more. It depends on how fast the ice is melting, but you're going to need at least 10 pounds of ice. And you just want to spread that all the way around. See how it's pretty evenly spread? And then your next step is you have to put salt. Now, this is rock salt that's made for an ice cream churn, and I'm just going to sprinkle that around. And the ratio that you use is for every 8 cups of ice, you need at least a cup of salt. And you can use table salt, you can use kosher salt, any kind of salt will work. But the rock salt works really well. It's big grained. And so now I have the mechanism, the part that will turn the cylinder around. It gets plugged in. I'm putting some more salt so I can put some more ice. And you really can't put too much ice in it, but what it does is it makes the water around the cylinder get colder. And so that's why you add that ice in there. So I'm just going to put some more in there, and then we are going to turn it on. So you can see the cylinder is moving. It's not the paddle that moves, it's actually the cylinder that moves, that churns the ice cream. Now while I'm doing this, I am actually making Joe a cherry pie. So that's in the oven while I'm making the ice cream, just to make something nice for Joe. When I need to close that back up, I just use some packing tape, and I can easily peel that off when I need to use it next time. But it just makes it so nothing gets into my ice cream salt. So you can see after about a half hour, the ice cream is forming. It looks delicious, and here we are. Old-fashioned homemade ice cream. And the cherry pie has come out of the oven. It's still extremely hot. I'm going to try some. So I put 4 containers of the ice cream in my freezer, and then I went over to my mom's next door and I gave them a great big container of ice cream because my dad loves homemade ice cream. So here we are, cherry pie out of the oven. It's still hot. The ice cream is already melted. I just put it on there. But the true test on if it's good is when I let Joe try it. So let's see his reaction. And I think he likes it.